All right, so today we're doing 9.5 part 2. So the learning target is the same as we did yesterday. Today we're learning about inverse trig ratios. So what those are the things that undo sine, cosine, and tangent. So just like multiply and divide undo each other, and add and subtract undo each other, sine and sine inverse undo each other, and cosine inverse undo each other. And same with tangent and tangent inverse. So basically you just write sine with a little -1 on the top, and that means sine inverse for that. So what we use those for is, if remember sine, cosine, and tangent, they all go with angle measures. So they help us figure out what angles are. So looking at example 1, it says find the measure of angle A to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so we are looking for angle A here. So let's write out what they give us. So opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. We don't have opposite. This is our adjacent, and this is our hypotenuse. So they gave us adjacent and hypotenuse. So in SOHCAHTOA, you have to decide which one has the A and the H. That's cosine. So cosine of angle A equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. You can simplify that if you want, or you can just leave it alone. So we are solving to figure out what A is. So actually what you do is you do the cosine inverse of both sides, because we want A to be by itself. So we're going to go cosine inverse, cosine inverse. So those cancel each other out, and A is cosine inverse of 3/15, which again, that's just a button on our calculator. So normally it's the one, oh, you guys can't see that. So here's my sine, cosine, and tangent. Cosine inverse is, see on the plate, it's a little cosine with a -1. So we hit second cosine to get cosine inverse of 3/15. And that is about, it says round to the nearest hundredth, so 78.46 degrees. So the measure of angle A is 78.46 degrees. Okay, so pause the video and see if you can figure out angle A on this triangle. Hopefully you paused it. So this is our reference angle. We're trying to figure out A. So on this one, we are given opposite and adjacent. So here's our opposite, here's our adjacent. So which of these three trig functions has the O and the A? That's tangent. So the tangent of angle A is opposite 11 over adjacent 10. So we're solving for A. So we have to undo the tangent. And the way we undo tangent is tangent inverse. So those cancel out. And we get that A equals, so angle A is going to be the tangent inverse of 11/10. So again, just a button on our calculator. So I'm going to get my calculator. I'm going to go second tangent, so that the tangent with the little -1 exponent shows up. And then I'm going to do 11 divided by 10. And we get that the measure of angle A is about 47 point, on this one it's going to be 73 degrees, because it's 726. Okay, for the next example, we're going to solve the right triangle. Okay, so the way you're going to do this every time is you're going to write out the measure of angle A, measure of angle B, measure of angle C, and then remember the side opposite it is the lowercase abc. So you have to write out all 6 every time, and we have to figure out what they are. So the things that we already know, so like angle C there is 90 degrees, because that's the right angle. Opposite angle C, we know the hypotenuse. Okay, so this is lowercase c, this is lowercase a, and this is lowercase b. So the side C is going to be 9. The side A is going to be 6, and we need to fill out the other 3 things. So starting out right here, if you have 2 of the 3 side measures, you should do the Pythagorean theorem. So to figure out what b is, I would go 6 squared plus b squared equals 9 squared. Okay, so that's going to give us 36 plus b squared equals 81. Okay, so then if we solve for b on all of these, we're just going to round to the nearest hundredth. So we get b squared is 45, and if we square root, so again, on these ones you don't have to simplify square roots, you can just write it to the nearest hundredth. So side b is going to be 6.71 is what I got, the square root of 45. 6.7, and then you get to bump that up to 1 because the next number is 8. Okay, so we have 6.71. Okay, so now we have to figure out what angle A and angle B are. And if I were you, I would choose the measures that they give us, because if you mess up on B, then you will also get your angles wrong. So let's say I wanted to figure out what A was, just for instance. So A is my reference angle. That means I was given opposite and hypotenuse. So you have to decide, again, which trig function has the O and the H, and that's sine. So that means that sine of angle A equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so we need to get A by itself, so we have to take the sine inverse of both sides. So these cancel, and we get that A is the sine inverse of 6/9, which you could have simplified that if you wanted to. So I'm going to go sine inverse of 6/9 is 41.81 degrees. So the measure of angle A is 41.81. Okay, so you don't have to use another trig function to figure out the measure of angle B, but because there are 180 degrees in a triangle. So we can just go 180, take off the 90, that's angle C, and then take off the 41.81, and we get that the measure of angle B is 48.19 degrees on both of those. Okay, so on this last one, we're given 2 of the 3 angles and only one side. So what you should do here is fill out what the angles are. So the measure of angle A is 62 degrees. The measure of angle B is 90 degrees this time, because that's our right angle. And then the measure of angle C, again, you can just do the 180 minus 62 minus 90, and you'll get that the measure of angle C is 28 degrees. Okay. So I'm going to write out what letters they are. So angle A is opposite side lowercase a, angle C is opposite side lowercase c, and angle B is opposite lowercase b. So the length of B is 10. So on this one, you're going to have to use trig to get A or C, because we can't do the Pythagorean theorem because we only have one of the side lengths. So let's use angle A as a reference angle. I know you can use any. Well, you can use either A or C. I know I keep using A, but that's all right. So let's say I'm trying to figure out A. So really quick, I want you to write in what side is the opposite, which side is the adjacent, and which is the hypotenuse. So this is our opposite, this is our hypotenuse, this is our adjacent. Okay, so let's say I want to find opposite. Okay, so we have angle A, we're looking for opposite, and we have the hypotenuse. So out of these three, which has opposite and hypotenuse? That'd be sine. So I know I need to use the sine trig function. So sine of angle A, which we know, sine of 62 degrees, equals opposite over hypotenuse. So to solve this, to get A by itself, all we have to do is multiply both sides by 10, because we have A over 10. So as a reminder from yesterday, this is just a button on our calculator. So if I just multiply both sides by 10, those cancel, and A is 10 times the sine of 62 degrees, which is about 8.83. So from here, you could choose to do the Pythagorean theorem to get side C, but just as practice, I'm going to show you how to do it with trig again. So I'm still going to use angle A as our reference angle. So now to get side C, we're looking for adjacent, and we have hypotenuse. So which trig function has the A and the H? That would be cosine. So the cosine of angle A, 62 degrees, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So again, we just got to multiply both sides by 10. So side C is 10 times cosine of 62 degrees, which is about 4.69. So one thing too, when you're solving the right triangles that you can look for is the largest angle should have the largest side. It should be opposite the largest side. So 90 is the biggest, 10 is the biggest. Same with here. 90 is the biggest, 9 is the biggest. The bigger angles have the bigger sides. And then 28 is the smallest, 4 is the smallest side. And then here on the angle, 41 is the smallest, and 6 is the smallest side. Your homework is on page 538, 16 through 27.